Testing 1, 2, 3. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all doing incredibly well. Hidden Agendas, good morning. KB, Kishan is always the first one here as always. Joe is here. I hope you're doing well. And good morning to Tariq. We've got a lot to get through. I've got a few rants to get off my chest. So I think we should probably begin. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. It's Friday. Yay. It's January. What is it? The 9th of January, 2026. And we've got a lot to get through. I am not going to sit here and preamble for too long. We are going to be talking about a ton of very important things happening today. We've got loads of X-Files to go through. We're going to be talking about VanEck. We're going to be talking about Vitalik Buterin. We're going to be talking about SUI. We're going to be talking about Zcash. We're going to be talking about World Liberty Finance. We're going to be talking about asset sizes. And I just want to, I do this probably every 3 months. We're going to bring up the list of the largest assets in the world, and we're going to go through them, and we're going to go through them and explain why you should kind of look at everything in one go and not just specifically pick Bitcoin or crypto or gold or whatever else it might be. So we're going to look at that. And then we're going to finish with a memoir from CZ. We're going to have a little chat about that as well at the end. And we've got literally about 10 X-Files to get through. So it's going to be a really, really busy show. Good morning to Mags. I hope you enjoyed your party on Wednesday night. I suppose we should get on with it because I really don't have a lot of time. Now, what you're going to notice is we've got the builders in. There you go. We're going to redo the UI. I've got rid of the old UI, and I'm going to bring in a new UI. And we're going to just try and make it a bit more simple. So I have grown in size. I'm no longer a borrower in the bottom of the screen. And you can see more of the screen and also see more of the prices because sometimes they get blocked out by the left-hand side. So that's kind of gone for now. But enough of that nonsense. Bitcoin's coming in at $90,200. Ethereum is still over $3,000. Incredible considering where we have been. XRP is still above $2 at $2.10. BNB still tickling the undercarriage of $900. We said this on Monday. Still just below $900. Solana hasn't had too bad a week, really. $138 for Solana. Dogecoin, Cardano is coming in just below 40 cents. Again, I need to see Cardano move a long, long way. One thing I did find, by the way, I found an article last night while I was looking for something else. And we, Crypto Warehouse, were in the article. And it was talking about various different influencers and what their predictions for XRP were at the end of 2025. And do you know who was the closest to being right? Yours truly, because I said $5 to $7. You had all of these superb influencers giving you $689, $50, $100, and I apparently was the most bearish one at the very end of the article. I'm going to clip it and put it on X later on. And I said $5 to $7, but it will not be able to sustain the market cap at that price. Where else do you get the most accurate predictions in the cryptoverse other than right here? And if you haven't done, follow us, smash the like button, say hello in chat, all of that kind of good stuff. Now, gainers and losers over the last 24 hours. Polygon is up 14%. Read nothing into that. It's at 14 cents. Zcash has gained back. It's back above $400. This is going to be my rant today. Maple Finance is up. Now, the last time Maple Finance broke 40 cents, it ran to 46 to 48 cents. If you're on Binance Square and you follow me over there, you'll know I put up the chart today about this. Now, all-time high for Maple Finance is about, 60 cents. It's only got a $454 million market cap. So it's not a massive coin in terms of size. So it can run. It can run a long way. And it doesn't need many people to pick it up. I don't know if it's going to break 40 cents, but if it does come back down, 34 to 35 cents is where it's going to come down to. Now, the Oracle was on last night. I think 700,000 people watched the Oracle last night, which was just a ridiculous number, And he talked about the syrup price, so I'm not going to go over that again, but he covered that last night. If you want to know the prices that we have for tokens, you watch the Oracle. He streams, I think it's Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. So he'll be streaming on Saturday night. If you've got coins that you want to know the prices of, ask him. He'll look at them in chat. So If you're on Binance Square, Saturday night, the Oracle will be streaming at about 8 p.m., maybe 7 p.m. I don't know. We're trying to work on the times a little bit. The graph is up a little bit. Render is up. ASI. Again, the AI narrative is surviving the start of the year. We're 9 days in, and there's a lot of tokens that are up. But again, ASI, I'm not shouting at about a 28-cent ASI token, ASI token, whatever it's called nowadays. I just don't think that's sufficient for me. Render at $2.22, that's not sufficient for me either. Losers then, over the last 24 hours, everything. I mean, it's not a green day. It's not a red day. It's a kind of purple day, I suppose. Sky's down a little. Midnight is down. Ton, MYX, Hype is down. Hype at $25 is probably a decent price for it right now. Pepe is down. Canton is down. Not a lot, but we are going to get on because I do have an awful lot to get through and I don't have a lot of time. We do this in an hour. 7 articles, about 6 to 10 different X-Files and the prices. It's a lot to get into in an hour. Now, there's a big day today. If we go down to Friday, the unemployment report comes out. And this all comes out first thing in the morning. Then we have the Fed President Neil Kashkari speaking at 10. Then we have the Richmond Fed Tom Barkin speaking at 1:35. On top of all of this, we also have the tariff court case. The judge giving his opinion on whether Trump can impose the tariffs that he has imposed. That's coming out today. So what I would say to you is, if you're watching this, avoid volatility. This is one of those days, very similar to the days where we have the rate cuts. This is one of those days where we can probably go, what are we at, 90,000? We could go to 86, 87,000, then back to 92, 93,000, and then on Saturday morning be back at $90,000. And if you're longing and shorting and you're using too much leverage, you're going to get wrecked, okay? Now, I am not going to give you financial advice, but my advice is when we have fairly volatile days, you're either going to be lucky or unlucky. And you shouldn't base your investment portfolio on luck. You might as well just go down and put your money on the grey horse because you like grey. Or you might as well go and back Man United to always concede a goal when they're winning, okay? Just go and put a bet on one of those. You're more likely to win than days like this, which is high volatility. You could get wicked out. The shorts could get liquidated. The longs could get liquidated. Just be careful. My job is not to give you financial advice, but my job is to try and stop you losing money, okay? Now, I think you can get away with saying stopping you losing money. Maybe you can. Maybe you can't. Let's move on then. We've got a lot to get through. Castor to the moon. United States is considering lump sum payments of $100,000 per resident of Greenland to buy their country. Again, you think he's crazy, and then he does something like that, and then you really realise he probably is crazy. Now, luckily for you, I have actually found you a way to do this. So KB, I know you're in the UK, so you're fairly close to Greenland. Go to Google and type in property for sale nuke, NWK. That's what you want to buy your property, right? Try and find something for $50,000, $60,000. Buy it, get residency there, take your $100,000, leave. I don't know where else you're going to get this kind of financial incentives from. $100,000 in your back pocket from Donald Trump. You buy a house, $50,000, $60,000. You walk away. You double your money. What can say fairer than that? Trump has decided on the next Fed chair to replace Powell. In a wide-ranging New York Times interview today, President Trump revealed he's already made up his mind. There are 2 Kevins in the race. No words yet on the pick, but this signals big potential shifts in monetary policy ahead. Lower rates incoming, absolutely. Now, again, Powell was chosen by Sleepy Joe. Sleepy Joe brought in Chair Powell. Chair Powell is very, very conservative. I think Powell's done a good job. And the reason is, and you'll know if you've watched me for a while, I don't go with the crowd. And the reason I don't go with the crowd is the crowd majoritively are wrong. And sitting there and saying Powell cut rates too late, which is what I said, saying that Powell bottled it when it came to the tariffs, which is what I said, okay? I still believe both of those things are true. But he also covered the economy during a time of mass volatility, mass inflation, and whether we like it or not, he's got inflation down. We're not arguing about what he's done at the end. You have to look at his entire tenure. It's not fair to look at the last few months. Everything turned sour in the last few months, whether it be an ex-girlfriend or an ex-boyfriend. If you've been with them for 2 years and you fight for the last 2 months of your relationship, you shouldn't look at that relationship on the last 2 months because you've had 18, 20 happy months together. Powell's done a good job. When he steps down and you look back at him, he will have done a good job. That's what you need to do. Don't look at the final throes of an outgoing Fed chairman. He's not going to cut rates because he's going to hand the mantle of cutting rates to the next Fed chairman. That's why he's doing this now, not back then. He should have cut rates back in May and June. He didn't do that. So just be careful with that. Now, Byron Donalds, this beautiful looking man here with, I mean, he's got great facial hair. I judge men on facial hair these days because I don't have any hair on my head to judge people by. He's just bought $100,000 of Bitcoin. This is the first time he's ever bought Bitcoin. Irrelevant. He sits on the Financial Services Subcommittee on Digital Assets. Now, we can't not like people for being the greatest traders of all time, and we know who we're talking about here, NP. We can't have a go at her and then allow these people on the right to also go and do the same thing. If you are in a position of power in the government of any country, you should not be allowed to buy assets. You should not be allowed to trade. I don't care what country you're in. Canada, America, UK. You can't do that. It's insider trading. There are laws to stop this stuff from happening. Now, much as I love the man's hair, here on his face, you can't see the mouse, but I'm pointing at his beard. This is utter nonsense, okay? Now, I'm not saying he's done it because he knows something, because that would be unfair of me, but he's clearly done it because he knows something. Wink, wink, nod. Right. KB has left the chat to go and buy a house in Greenland. Fair play. You know who you should ask about buying houses in Greenland? Go and ask Mary, because she owns Greenland. Bitcoin miner water heater featured on the CES 2026 show floor. Built with an A6 Bitcoin miner mounted on a 50-gallon water heater. Same energy usage as a standard electric water heater while producing Bitcoin. Mining revenue could fully offset water heating expenses. There you go. So this is one. Again, KB's in England. It's freezing over there right now. It's like minus 50 in England right now because they've got an Arctic blast. Before you go to Greenland, which is even colder, go and fit one of these boilers in your house and start mining your Bitcoin. Okay? It's going to be cold. You're going to need hot water all the time. You know, we've got, what's the word for it? What do these people call it now? Global warming doesn't affect the UK. It affects everywhere else but the UK, and we're just cold and wet. Go and get yourself a hot water boiler and mine yourself some Bitcoin. You never know how much you're going to make out of that Bitcoin. Anyway, moving very swiftly on. I, funnily enough, have been telling somebody in real life to do this. And I've found this video, which I'm going to send him after the stream. This lady called Mary, who I don't know who she is, she's been saving $1 of Bitcoin every day for 365 days. Her goal is to prove that you don't need a lot of money to start saving in Bitcoin. It's been 3 years since I was doing this challenge. Every year I do a video sharing my progress, and this is year 3 of my progress. And there she is, okay? And we're not going to play all the video, but she has invested $1,436 at $1 a day. That is now worth $3,184. So she's made 121.75% profit by buying $1 of Bitcoin a day. If you live in the poorest part of the world and you cannot afford $1 a day, $2 a week, $1 a week. That is all you have to save, okay? It doesn't have to be. If $1 is a lot of money in your country, do 20 cents a day, 50 cents a day. Just try and stack sats. That's what she is doing. She's now got $3,184. Now, I don't know what country she lives in, but I am sure there are a list of countries where the annual salary is $3,000 or $4,000. So she's managed to put away an annual salary in 3 years from saving in Bitcoin. That should be your goal. Now, Rumble CEO Chris Pavlovski has created a non-custodial Bitcoin wallet on their platform. And again, I like this kind of stuff. I'm a big fan. I can't stop someone from tipping you, and I can't cancel you. When you have your wallet and address, you're on your own. And again, self-custody is, for a lot of people, the only way to have crypto. Don't necessarily agree with that, because I think there's a lot of people out there who can't manage their own bank account. They're not going to be able to manage their own crypto. So I think this applies to maybe 30-40% of the population, but still, we have tried Rumble and there is no volume over there. There's nobody watching us on Rumble, so it's difficult to stream on Rumble. It will work brilliantly for, who do they have as their big streamers? They have Andrew Tate, he streams over on Rumble, and they have that guy with the beard who looks like Jesus Christ, the English guy, Russell Brand, okay? They're the only two people I know about that stream on Rumble, and fair play to them. Now then, if you were part of our quiz night, and KB wasn't part of our quiz night, all winners on both Binance Square and YouTube have now been paid. Educating you on Maple Finance and Syrup is a pleasure, and seeing you learn and win is a bonus. See you on the next quiz in February. So I've just uploaded the screenshots of the people who have been paid. Mary won, Hidden Agendas won, and Villain Bear won. They're the three winners on YouTube, and there were three winners as well on Binance, and they were all paid as well. I think I've got the names on here as well. Pintu won, Eddie won, and Mr. Raj won. So 6 winners from the quiz, but it's not about the money, it's about the education, as we keep wanting to say. Now, we're going to move on to the actual news itself. 11:17, I don't think we're doing too badly for time. 43 minutes to get through 7 articles, 6 minutes an article, plenty of time. And we haven't even got to Zcash yet. Tariq has asked, was it Greenland or Finland? Well, no. What happened, Tariq? She took Finland, okay, but she's a megalomaniac. So she went from Finland and moved north and invaded Greenland, you see. So she's now got, as far as I'm aware, she's got Finland and Greenland, and the next country I imagine Mary is going to take will be France. Because as we said on Wednesday night, you turn up with one tank, surrender, and then the French will surrender. So I think France is next. I think she's just playing a very, very long game of risk. What she might do is she might sell Greenland to Trump, take that money, and then maybe go and buy... Where could she buy? San Marino? Liechtenstein, maybe? Maybe she'll go and buy a country rather than just invading it. Vanek predicts Bitcoin could reach $2.9 million in new long-term capital report. Now, again, unlike Tom Lee, by the way, Tom Lee might be in trouble. I don't know if you've seen this. Tom Lee might be investigated for dodginess. Now, it's a rumor. We don't know it's true, so it's not an article. It's not a link. But Tom Lee might be in trouble. I don't think they're going to have to sell her Ethereum or anything, but I think he personally might be in a little bit of trouble. So, unlike Tom Lee and Michael Saylor and Kathy Ward and Rich Dad Poor Dad and all those people that give their predictions on Bitcoin, when VanEck does it, they actually have to produce a report. They can't just sit on a TV show and just come out with a number. They have to actually back up their figures. So according to their ambitious research published by Asset Manager, VanEck, Bitcoin could potentially reach 2.9 million by 2050. Now, have you noticed that this number here keeps going further and further away? Does that remind you of anybody? You know the little people that talk about polar bears and talk about the fact that we're all going to be 26 foot underwater? Have you noticed that the year it happens is always moving further and further into the future. And the reason is they made a lot of mistakes in the 90s and the early 2000s. And what they did was they gave too early predictions. So if you listen to a lot of people, we were underwater by 2020. Then we were underwater by 2025. And then they realised that people are going to cotton onto this. So what they do now is they make 2050, 2075. But it's not too far into the future that it won't affect you, but it's far enough into the future for you not to be able to prove them wrong. With crypto, they're doing the same thing. We had predictions for the year that we're in. You know, we've obviously seen all the idiots that got it wrong. We've seen it for this year. All the idiots are going to get it wrong. We're seeing it for 2030. Probably most of the idiots are going to get it wrong. And now VanEck have gone, you know what? All in with the polar bear crowd. We're going for 2050. Okay, that gives us 24 years. They've gone for $2.9 million by 2050. So this has come from Matthew Siegel, who is very reputable, by the way. We've covered him many, many times on here. I'm not having an individual pop at him or saying, you know, maybe he likes polar bears. He's the senior investment analyst. Oh, and senior investment analyst Patrick Bush, who have been employed a valuation framework based on Bitcoin's role in two primary markets as a medium of exchange and as a reserve asset. So they have predicted a 15% compound annual growth from the current levels. So if Bitcoin is $100,000, they are predicting it's going to go up a minimum of $15,000 a year between now and 2050, whenever the polar bears start buying Bitcoin. The report outlines two structural shifts they believe will be pivotal. The first is the settlement pivot, which will be by 2050, and it will be responsible for settling between 5 and 10% of global international trade, as well as 5% of domestic trade. Now, you might think that this isn't going to happen, but what you got to understand is the petrodollar is a term that's used for the settlement currency for oil. It's called the petrodollar, and that's because Russia, China, America, UK, everybody, they value the oil in dollars. So petroleum, dollar, petrodollar. What they're saying here is potentially and I'm just picking one example now, 5 to 10% of global international trade in oil will be done in Bitcoin. Now, you might think that's not going to happen, but I don't know if you remember the sanctions that were brought out against a certain country beginning with R when they invaded a certain country beginning with U. They cut them off from the SWIFT banking system. So it forced R to go and use a different currency or different assets. And they started to look at using the yuan. They started doing all these other things. Now, Bitcoin gets to a certain size, they're going to be able to use Bitcoin. They're going to be able to use Bitcoin, and it's not going to be able to be stopped. You can't put in a levy against it. So don't think of it in terms of you going and buying a loaf of bread for Bitcoin, which is a possibility today. We're talking about the big boys trading oil, trading whatever else it might be. That's what that's about. I don't agree that Bitcoin will be used for domestic transactions. I don't think it ever is going to get to that point just yet. The same way that we don't use gold to trade in shops, we use a paper currency. I don't see it. Now, hyper Bitcoinization is the term that you're going to use, and that is basically mass adoption of Bitcoin. That's hyper Bitcoinization. 20% of trade and 10% of domestic GDP. It could go to $53.4 million per coin. Again, don't read anything into this. Achieving this would require Bitcoin to equal or surpass gold status as a primary global reserve asset. Now, again, we're going to look at that further down when we look at... In fact, I've now got the menu on the right-hand side, haven't I? So I can tell you. When we get to asset sizes, we're going to talk about gold and we're going to talk about Bitcoin. And it's not an article as such. It's more of a review of the top assets, which we haven't looked at for a while. Now, first things first. You want people to notice your name. You write an outlandish article. 2.9 million is more believable than saying 53.4 million. And had VanEck released a white paper or a research report saying $54 million per Bitcoin, everybody would have laughed at them. So they've gone for the one that they think people are going to believe, $2.9 million. Do I think we can get to $2.9 million in the next 24 years? I mean, who knows? Who knows? I think we'll hit $1 million faster than I think we will hit it. But I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow. And I certainly don't think we're going to $260,000 in 2026 either. Right, moving on. Vitalik Buterin says increasing bandwidth is safer than reducing latency for blockchain scalability. Oh, look at that, man. If I said to you, aliens walk amongst us, there are aliens on Earth, can you find me some people that look like aliens? Who do you think looks like aliens? You wouldn't go for Trump, would you? You wouldn't probably even go for Elon Musk. But that guy there, I mean, does he look a bit alien-y? Oh no, he's giving me octopus vibes, and we know they're strange things. Buterin has said Ethereum's bandwidth increasing is much safer than reducing latency. He acknowledged that PEER-DAS and zero-knowledge proofs enable Ethereum to scale thousands of times faster than the current status quo. Ethereum's co-founder also revealed earlier this week that ETH has solved blockchain's trilemma through ZK EVMs and PEER-DAS technology. Now, there is a trilemma that has existed for 50-something years now, since computers and mainframes were arrived, and I'm never going to remember all three, am I? Speed, security, and decentralization. And one of those three things has to be forfeited for the other two to work. So speed and safety you can aim for if you reduce decentralization. So if you look at something like Solana, when Solana first started out, it was very centralized, but it was quick and it was safe to use. If you look at Bitcoin, it is absolutely secure and it is absolutely decentralized, but it's not very quick. So one of them has to suffer. And this goes way before crypto. This goes back to the 70s when people were looking at how different sites, different actual office blocks within an organization can connect. Now I remember, because I'm old enough, I worked for Shell. And Shell was a global organization. They were everywhere. And to log in the morning would take 5 minutes. Can you believe that? You type in your username and password, hit go, and then it would go off to some centralized database somewhere in The Hague, because that's where they were based, and then it would let me log in. And it would let me log in to use a server that was 500 yards away. And that's because it was secure and decentralized, but it wasn't quick. So this has been around for many, many years. Now, the question I've got for you is, before we get into this post, what is the point of layer 2s if Ethereum can do everything? There are answers to that question, by the way. You can have specific layer 2s that are built to do specific things with pre-built templates, pre-built structures. You know, we can look at real-world assets with built-in AML and KYC and stuff like that. So that's why layer 2 should exist. DeFi as well, pre-built stuff. So yes, but in terms of why did we create layer 2s on Ethereum? We created them because Ethereum was too slow. Now, if ZK proofs and Vitalik and his team have solved the trilemma, technically there's no reason to have a layer 2, in theory. So they said on Thursday, increasing the network's bandwidth is much safer than reducing latency. He argued that the network can scale with peer-to-peer data available, sampling PEER-DAS and zero-knowledge proofs. But Buterin acknowledged that PEER-DAS and ZKPs enable Ethereum to scale thousands of times compared to the status quo. He revealed that analysis with pre- and post-sharding showing numbers have become far more favorable than before. The crypto mogul also acknowledged that there's nothing that prevents combining extreme scale with decentralization on the ETH blockchain. Now, I just want to point something out, because this always makes me smile. This man here plays a warlock in World of Warcraft, and warlocks have shards and they store souls or something in them. I don't know what. I think they're souls, right? And they use them in the game. So you will see Warcraft related jargon dotted around Ethereum, and that's simply because he played World of Warcraft. Interesting fact for you right there. So this is what he's trying to do. Fair play to him. I was very critical of him last year. I said he's not given any direction for Ethereum. Ethereum is floundering. They brought in the new CEO, the new girl. They brought her in. He then seems to have been unshackled from all of the day-to-day stuff and gone back to what I said at the time is fixing Ethereum and making it better, because he should never be going to meetings. He shouldn't be doing presentations. He should be sitting in a room with computers and coffees and pizzas and donuts and given that he's an alien, maybe packets of plasma, all that kind of stuff, and he should be making Ethereum run super, super cool. Think of it this way, okay? If aliens came down and they wanted to take over, they'd build a blockchain and they'd make it the best blockchain in the world, and then everything would run on that blockchain, and then they would run everything. I tell you, he's going to be an alien. It's going to be unveiled. He's going to fall over on stage in his Pikachu outfit, and he's going to catch his face, and it's going to flip up, and it's going to have green lizard skin underneath. You laugh now. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. Right, where are we? I'm just checking that we are still live, which we are. Perfect. Right, SUI Group completes 8.8% share buyback. Digital Treasury tops 108 million SUI. This, I think, is a black swan event. I've said this many, many times before. Bitcoin and at a push Ethereum, for me, are the only two true treasuries that you can have, simply because of scale and size. Ethereum's 400 or 500 billion. Obviously, we know Bitcoin is almost 2 trillion, sorry. SUI, I'm not sold on this. They're too speculative. And I don't think anybody's treasury should be in anything other than Bitcoin and Ethereum. And that Ethereum is at a push. If I held shares in a company, and I've said this before as well, and they started to go down the route of having Avalanche or SUI or Solana, I'd be out of there. I would be selling my shares. But SUI Group has repurchased 7.8 million shares of its common stock, representing 8.8% of its total shares outstanding. The buyback executed during the fourth quarter utilised $15.75 million of the company's previously authorised $50 million share repurchase programme. The aggressive capital return strategy coincided with a significant increase in the company's digital asset reserves. As of the 7th of January, which was 2 days ago, they've got 108 million SUI. Fueled primarily by native staking rewards and strategic lending activities with the SUI blockchain ecosystem, the company noted that it's currently daily yielding 5,225 SUI. Now, I don't like any of this. I don't like any of this at all. It just looks like it's going to fail. And again, the crowd will go in one direction, and I will always try and find you a different angle. And my angle is this. If we have the correction to the downside that we are expecting, SUI is currently valued at it was valued about $2 last time we looked, wasn't it? SUI's at 179, okay? What happens when SUI goes to 80 cents or 90 cents? And this company's value is going to do what? Because if you look at the SUI chart, and this is an example, I'm not having a go at SUI Group Holdings or whoever they are. It's not about that. It's about the concept. We want to talk about volatility. Bitcoin, the safest asset, is down 30%. This is down from almost $5 to $1.78. It's down 61%. It can go down another 61%. I'm not saying this is going to be the end of SUI. I'm saying that at some point, somebody like SUI Group is going to go to the wall, and all of these investors are going to lose money. So Marius Barnett has said, our recent share repurchases reflect our unwavering confidence in the intrinsic value of SUI and our industry-first treasury strategy. Just because you're first doesn't mean it's the best. We remain committed to utilising our remaining $22 million in cash and equivalents for further value accretive acquisitions. Again, be careful, okay? Don't suddenly go through a list of various different crypto-related treasuries or crypto-related companies in America, or wherever it might be, and think, I'm just going to go and invest in each of them. They're not all the same. It's only going to end in tears. I believe it's only going to end in tears. I don't know it's going to end in tears, and let that be the differentiator on this. Bitcoin treasuries, MicroStrategy is running really close to the wire. Tom Lee seems to be pulling money out of thin air to buy Ethereum. At some point, people are going to want to see a return, and that comes from the appreciation in value of the asset, so Bitcoin going up, Ethereum going up, or a yield, a return on those assets. So we talked about the Bitcoin hotel before. Maybe Tom Lee's going to do the same thing with Ethereum, or maybe he's just going to base it off the staking rewards. Who knows? But the point of the matter is, I don't trust Sui, I don't trust Solana, I don't trust Cardano treasuries, I don't trust any of them. I think they are too volatile and may cause a little bit of contagion in the market. Now, Zcash plunges 20% after entire core team exits. Amid a dispute, the former CEO pointed to governance changes at Bootstrap, the Zcash-linked non-profit. Now, I wouldn't worry too much about this, because as far as I'm aware, the price has pretty much recovered, has it not? And I'm going to bash Zcash, but I'm not going to bash it over its price. Based on this news, I just want to talk about them in general. So I think it's pretty much recovered. So if we go to the 1 week, let's have a quick look. So it was already on the slide. It's had its dip, 382. It's now pretty much, maybe not back. It's only down a few dollars. It's down 14% in a week. Who cares? Now, the reason this happened is the entire team quit. They all left. The Electric Coin Company announced it was leaving following a governance dispute tied to an organisation that supports the project. The token is currently trading at 420, 13%. Again, I don't care about that part of it. I'm going to talk about the reason I'm not a fan of Zcash in a second. So it was constructively discharged after a majority of the Bootstrap board changed employment terms. He said the changes made it impossible for the team to carry out its work. I believe there was about $26 million, and they locked that $26 million so the team couldn't sell it to then fund themselves developing the project. That's the story I read. Sweetheart said that Zcash protocol itself was not affected, as it won't be. We're founding a new company, but we're still the same team with the same mission, building unstoppable private money, he wrote. So the founder and former ECC CEO, Zuko Wilcox, chimed in, stressing that none of the drama involves him or Shielded Labs. Now, there is the story that I want to talk about here. Good morning, Danny. The story I want to talk about here is privacy coins. And the reason I want to talk about privacy coins is that there are a lot of people in the world that have a very ideological view of the world. And they see the world through specific spectacles, whether that's be on the left or the right. Now, one of those is privacy coins. And very simply put, nobody should know what you spend your money on. I agree. And nobody should stop you from spending your money on what you want to spend it on. I also agree. But there is a balance. And the balance is you cannot allow the world to exist with a black market of cryptocurrencies, because it's not you that's the problem. It's the people I'm not allowed to mention the names of in case it gets flagged on another channel. We're saying those names. You can't let bad actors have carte blanche over a project. And we can talk about Turbo Cash or Monero or Zcash. We can talk about all of those things. We can talk about how Binance does work with the police. It works with criminal investigators. We could talk about all those things. But the crux of it is this. We cannot have privacy coins in crypto for us to have mass adoption. Now, this all stems from a video that I made over a year ago about Monero. And I said Monero is dead. And the reason I said Monero is dead is that it was delisted on Binance in several countries, because I think Holland, Italy, maybe Portugal, a few other European countries banned Monero. Fine. That's entirely their prerogative to ban Monero. And we've got Trump at the minute, and we've got JD Vance, and they're all free speech and free speech and free speech and free speech. And then you've got Ursula van Dress, or whatever she's called, in the European Union going, control, control, control. And you've got this clash at the minute between people that want to control information and people that want free speech. And there is a clash. And that clash is as old as the hills, okay? It will go on. And what I said today on Twitter was this. We will have Monero and Zcash and all of these other coins as long as Trump is in power. The second he is gone, the second that we get a Democrat in, the second that these coins lose that support, they are finished. We should not allow bad actors to run carte blanche through crypto and funnel funds for nefarious reasons to their own platforms. If you look at a certain place, NK for example, I think the entire military up there is funded from theft, from stolen assets. That has to be stopped. But it doesn't mean we have to stop crypto. It means we have to stop and eliminate as much as we can these coins. And for me, they don't have a place. So whether Zcash goes to $1,200 or not, I don't see its future. Whether Monero runs to $2,500, they don't have a future. And they don't have a future because they're built to do something which is idealistic. And idealistic means it's built for one thing. Look at the atom bomb. Look at the splitting of the atom. That's the best idea. They didn't split the atom to go and do what they did. They split the atom for different reasons. There's many things that have been created in the world that were created for one reason and ended up being used for another. We can look at laws as well. Laws have been introduced to do one thing and then they get abused to do another thing. These coins get abused. So ideologically, they are sound and you should be able to use them. But in reality, they're just going to cause you and I and crypto and everybody else to suffer. And they have to go, in my opinion. Let's move on a little bit and get back into crypto. I'm getting lots of notifications on my phone. I do apologise. Right, World Liberty joins crypto shift towards federal banking oversight. Again, we've got another 2.5 years for World Liberty to embed itself in crypto. And we know it's about value extraction. We know it's about tapping into the value of crypto. We know before Trump came into power that he was going to get his pound of flesh. And we've said this, and we know this is going to happen. And you just know that the other side of his political spectrum are going to pretend as if this is all brand news. I can't believe he's doing this. He was going to do this back in summer last year when it was announced that they were going to launch this company. They are going to become a bank. Very simply put. So they filed an application that would place its stablecoin and custody operations under direct federal supervision, a move that underscores how quickly the industry is pivoting from regulatory avoidance to integration. To do that, or because they're doing this, it then allows them to apply for a banking license. So they can't go and apply for a banking license if they're not regulated or none of their operations are currently regulated. So rather than operating as a conventional lender, the company is seeking approval to launch a national trust bank purpose-built for digital assets. The proposed entity, to be called World Liberty Trust Company, would function as a narrow financial institution focused on custody, settlement and stablecoin infrastructure, not deposits or credit creation. At the center is USD1, which is currently $3.3 billion. We were talking on here not that long ago about that being $1 billion. It's now $3.3 billion. So when we talk about how are they going to extract value from the system, USD1 will grow to the point where it's bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars every month, and they will use that to buy the World Liberty financial tokens, which they hold millions and millions of, and then pump that price higher and higher and higher, and they will walk away with a few $1 billion. Value extraction. So, instead of relying on fragmented state licenses or bespoke regulatory arrangements, World Liberty is targeting the Office of the Controller of the Currency Framework, long used to supervise trust banks responsible for safekeeping assets and managing reserves. If approved, it would subject USD1's reserves, custody operations, and internal controls to federal examinations. We're also, again, regulation, regulation, regulation. Remember, adoption, interoperability, and regulation, the three tenets that we have for crypto to succeed. So, again, should you go out and buy World Liberty Financial tokens? I hold them. And I have been buying them at 20 cents, 16, 12, 11 cents. I've been buying them. I don't think they're going to go super, super high. They're not going to go to $100 each. But I think they'll certainly go somewhere in the region of a few dollars. Not now, but in the future, absolutely. Why not? Now then, we're going to move on a little bit. And I want to kind of talk to you about perspective. And I want to talk to you about understanding crypto in the grand scheme of things. And the reason I want to do that is that people live in bubbles. They call it crypto Twitter. Maybe Binance Square has its own bubble. Maybe YouTube has its own bubble. And you're not going to understand everything if you just live in your little bubble. And the best example of this, and this is a brilliant example, when my son was at school, very, very young, can't remember how old he was now, they took us this presentation, and the teacher stood there, and he started to read a paragraph out of a book. And he said, "What's this paragraph? What's the context of this paragraph?" And nobody had any idea. And he said, "This is a sheet out of an instruction manual for a tumble dryer." You can show somebody something, and without any context, they will not understand anything you're talking about. And even if they do understand what's on the page, because they don't have the context of the book, they're not going to understand it. And that is very much like crypto. You see people after, let's say that somebody invades somewhere, or a bomb gets dropped off somewhere, or there's a natural disaster somewhere. The S&P drops, everything drops, and then Bitcoin falls 5%. And you see people coming into chat going, "Why is Bitcoin down?" Bitcoin is down because every single thing in the universe is connected, and everything in the world is connected. So when you look at crypto, you have to understand the perspective of where we've come from. $17,000 2 years ago, $90,000 today. You've got sad people. It's 6 times higher than it was 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and you're sad. These things take time, and the reason that what I'm about to show you now, is so important is it shows you how far Bitcoin has come. This is the list of assets by market cap, and this is the context you have to look at Bitcoin within, okay, for good and bad. And I'm going to start with the bad, and the bad is this: Bitcoin has a $1.8 trillion market cap. It has been higher. It was at $2.2, $2.3 trillion, but it's the 8th largest asset in the world, and it hasn't even scratched the surface. Okay, the bad is people on crypto Twitter and YouTube and Binance Square who have no idea what they're talking about, telling you that Bitcoin is going to flip gold. 1.8 trillion, 31 trillion. Now, we're going to go back a little bit. Last time I covered this may have been October last year, September last year. Bitcoin was sitting at $2 trillion. And I said, by the time that Bitcoin gets to $20 trillion, gold will be a lot higher than it is now. And again, idiots that you listen to have everything on this list static apart from Bitcoin. Well, if Bitcoin does a 10x, it's going to catch gold. They're all moving trains, you idiots. Bitcoin is now at $1.8 trillion, having come down from, say, $2.2 trillion. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Gold is at $31 trillion. So gold has gone up 40-50% in the time that Bitcoin has corrected to the downside by about 20%. They're moving targets. We're probably going to need to see Bitcoin break $50 trillion to catch gold. realistically, because gold is likely to go up another 60%. So Bitcoin is going to have to go some. Now, my argument is, forget gold. My argument is that Bitcoin should become the second biggest asset in the world. Now, you have below gold, you have a mixture of commodities and private companies. And the one thing that you learn is that over time, the world changes. I did business studies, and one of the things you learn in business studies is you learn about Peter Drucker, and you learn about many other things to do with how businesses become a success. A successful business 60 years ago does not exist today. A successful business 40 years ago does not exist today. Perfect example. How many companies, let's do the top 10. How many companies in the top 10 existed 30 years ago? Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft. Yes, Microsoft was what, 1990 maybe? So that's 35 years old. Apple, Google, Nvidia. So if we went back 30 years, or maybe even 20 years, we'd have a completely different top 10. And maybe that's something I can dig out in the future. But this is the same thing. Bitcoin is now challenging companies that didn't exist 30 years ago. But guess what? Bitcoin didn't exist 15 years ago. So the only two constants on your list in front of your eyes now are gold and silver. And you'd have to be really arrogant or naive to believe that Bitcoin in 15 years is going to flip gold, which has been around for hundreds of years. Okay? It's not going to happen. It's a little bit like I make a lot of videos about a certain exchange, and they do a comparison between their exchange and Binance and their token and BNB, and they do it all the time. And the problem is that company is never going to be Binance. That company is never going to catch Binance, and they're setting their goals too high. Okay, am I ever going to break Usain Bolt's 200-meter record? No. It's an unrealistic goal. Bitcoin flipping gold is unrealistic. Bitcoin getting to silver and Nvidia is a 3x. That puts us at just under 300,000. And again, as I've said, as we get towards 250,000, silver will be higher, Nvidia will be higher. Or maybe Nvidia's stock starts to crash. Maybe silver becomes the number 2 asset, and then maybe Bitcoin becomes the number 3 asset. But take everything into context. So when somebody says to you, and these, as I said, the good and the bad. If somebody says to you, "Oh, Bitcoin will never flip gold," yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Gold is on a very slow moving train, but it's still on a moving train. Bitcoin's on a faster moving train, but it's slowing down. It's not going to catch Bitcoin. Then somebody says to you, "Oh, Bitcoin's a scam." Bitcoin's the 8th largest asset in the world. Putting Bitcoin into context is the most important thing you can do. Now, what you're not going to find on here in this list is you're not going to find a meme coin. You're not going to find a meme coin anywhere to be seen. So if you're trying to secure your future, don't buy meme coins. You buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin is going to go up, okay? And maybe if there's a pump in the markets, Bitcoin catches Amazon, maybe catches Microsoft and Apple, maybe gets into the top 5. But bear in mind where it was 10 years ago, and look where it is today. It's done incredibly well. But don't be arrogant enough to think we're going to flip gold, okay? Bitcoin is a superior asset that's been around for 5 minutes in the eyes of gold. That's the way to view it. Gold was being traded before the people who made Bitcoin were even born. That's another way to look at it. So give it time. It takes time, and it's going to take many, many years for Bitcoin to really, really, really saturate the market. But put everything into context. It's not the best yet. It's absolutely not the worst yet. It has adoption. It has a massive market cap, and one other thing to mention there is no asset that's ever been worth more than $1 trillion has ever disappeared. So that's another way of looking at it. When people say to you, oh, Bitcoin it's a fad, it's going to disappear. It's the 8th largest asset in the world, not likely to go anywhere. Now then, you might recognize this man, or you would if this worked. Where are we? Here we go. Right then. I'm just checking I've got enough time. Very quickly, let's have a look. What have we got? 5 minutes. Absolutely perfect time. Right then. That is my email address, by the way. Any business opportunities, email me there. Right. Binance founder seeks to dispel speculation over memoir plans. Now, CZ put a tweet out about this. Yesterday, I read that tweet. He said he's considering naming the Chinese version of his memoir Binance Life, while stressing that the title has no connection to any meme tokens or listing decisions. And the reason he said that is that this coin, which I'm going to try and highlight, this coin was trending on the smart chain yesterday, I believe. And he came out that he believes in the meme culture. Does it actually have a list on there? CZ said the English title has not been decided and is likely to be completely different. He expects to self-publish both the Chinese and English versions at the same time, with a release timeline of around 4 to 6 weeks. So we're going to get a CZ book in the next 4 to 6 weeks. That's something exciting to look forward to, isn't it? There is no token associated with this. The Binance Life token, I'm not going to try and pronounce it in Chinese, was recently listed on Binance Spot. Some social media users suggested the listing was timed to promote the book or create hype. And this is the thing he was talking about on X yesterday, explaining that he wasn't going to be having anything to do with the token. He rejected the idea, said the book title is unrelated to any token, meme coin or listing plan. He said he does not hold the token, has no intention of buying it. He said he understands meme culture and finds the phrase catchy, which is why he's considering it for the Chinese edition. He said this not should be taken as support for any specific token or market activity. CZ said he chose to self-publish because working with traditional publishers would take too long, even though they would offer wide distribution. He's going to sell this book. There's going to be hundreds of thousands of people buying this book. He said all proceeds he received from the book will be donated to charity, adding that the memoir is not intended as a commercial project. The clarification came after some market commentary suggested the spot listing was to tie the broader narrative. Now, again, the one thing I've said before about this is CZ is a free man. He is allowed to say what he wants. I am completely on board with that. He does have somewhat of a responsibility to be honest with what he buys. And we've had the story about the Queen of England before and the Pope buying stocks and shares. If the Queen or the Pope buys stocks in a company, that stock's share price goes through the roof. So you do have a responsibility. But that responsibility is within certain boundaries. If CZ wants to write a book, and CZ goes on X and says, I'm thinking of writing a book. It's going to be called Binance Life in Chinese, I think. I don't know what it's going to be called in English. Or he tells some of his friends and they go and create a coin and they go and do whatever. He can't stop that. So the responsibility is only in a certain amount of time. You can't have a go at him because he's released his book title and then people said, I can't believe he's got his book title out. Everyone's making meme coins. He didn't make the meme coin. He doesn't own the meme coin. When he does work with people, he uses the YZ, is it YZI Labs? And he's open and transparent about it. That's all you want from these people. You want open transparency. If he goes and buys Asta token, fine. He goes and buys Asta token. If he comes out and says, I'm going to call it Binance Life, and somebody goes and makes a meme coin, it's not on him. How many meme coins have been made off Trump, off Elon Musk? Charlie Kirk, I made a video about those meme coins. So, come on, give him a break. There's times where he should be more responsible, and there's times where he shouldn't be more responsible. And this is absolutely not one of them. You can't hold him responsible for that. What utter nonsense. Right then. Good morning, Manjeet. I hope you're well. We have come in 11:59 and 20 seconds. I think we're done. I think we've done a good job. Now, so far, As I said at the start of the show, everyone that entered the competition on Maple Finance Quiz Night has been paid as of today. The people on Binance Square have been paid. The people on YouTube have been paid. We don't have a quiz planned for next Wednesday. We have a quiz planned for the Wednesday after, which is the 21st, which is the Wolfies Night. But we are currently talking to, without giving things away, we're currently talking to a few people about becoming a partner. So we had a couple of partners. Some of them we're not allowed to put on here. We've got a couple of partners that we're not allowed to put the logos on. For example, we have a few partners that we are. You'll obviously see Wolfswap, you'll see Maple Finance, things like that. But we're looking for another partner. And that will be a quiz night as well. But we don't have one at the minute. We haven't crossed the T's and dotted the I's yet. So at the minute, it's going to be 2 quiz nights a month for now. And then hopefully going back to 3 quiz nights a month when we do find somebody. But the problem is, and I keep saying this every time to you, we don't just accept everybody. If I showed you my list of collab requests, it's pages long, and we turn them all down. Why? Because they want us to promote something on Binance Square and X which doesn't fit in with what we do. It doesn't fit in with Binance. It doesn't fit in with anything that we do. So we don't do deals with them. And it's as simple as that. We'd be a lot richer if we just took everybody else on board. We know that. But we have morals, okay? And we don't mind being a little bit poorer to have morals. So be aware of that. Now, there is something exciting, actually, coming up. I'm going to make a video today, very, very soon. And it's called... it's about a quiz, believe it or not. And not a quiz on YouTube, a quiz somewhere else. I'm going to make the video. I've got the script signed off. I'm going to make that video now. And I'm all for this, by the way. I think this is brilliant. It's going to be shown on a different platform, which I'm not going to say the name of. It's a blockchain quiz, which I like the idea of. There are some prize pools, so you can win some money. The audience, just for showing up, there are $5,000 in rewards spread across giveaways, polls, interaction, and surprise drops throughout the show. I'm making a video about that today because I like it. And if I like something, I'll make a video about it. So I'm going to make that video now. Probably going to be about 5 or 6 minutes long. I'm going to put it up in certain places. I don't think I'm going to be able to put it up on Binance, but I'll ask Francis about that. And I think this is really cool. They're claiming to be this certain platform's first ever live crypto quiz. Now, they're going to have to be very, very careful because we have started the world's first ever live interactive quiz. So it's very close to our hearts, this one. But I like it, and I'm going to put the video up. So look out for a video in a few hours. Do we sell the cat tokens now? No. We were partnered with them for 2 years, and we've not heard from them in a while, but that doesn't mean they've gone anywhere. They're partnering with a drag race company. They've got their own design studio, so we've not turned bearish because we're not partners with them. Do you know what I mean? So if we stopped partnering with Maple Finance, it wouldn't mean we'd stopped being bullish on Maple Finance. There's very few meme coins that we like, I will admit. We like Brett, we like Bonk, we like Pepe, we like Floki, and we like Mew. There are a few that we like. And we like them because they're not just a meme coin. They do things. So Mew has an animation studio, and they've got merch that keeps selling out. So that's going to drive the IP higher. So all I would say is the meme coins will follow the narrative of the market. Look at AI at the minute. They're going up. If you want to take a profit on Mew, by all means. But I haven't gone off them. It's just we can't get hold of our contact. The contact that we've had for 2 years has disappeared. So we went to see them at Solana Breakpoint and they weren't there. So we don't know what's happening. It's not a case of we've dropped them and they've dropped us. We've not spoke to them. So we're going to find out. But I wouldn't worry about that. Anyway, thank you, everybody. I am going to go make my video now. You, as always, have been great. I need to work on my beard, I think. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. The Oracle, by the way, is back tomorrow night. The Oracle's back tomorrow night. So keep an eye out for him. And I've completely forgotten, we've got the next In the Trenches lined up. That will be dropping, hopefully, early next week as well. So thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. Take care.